All right. All right. We live? Okay. All right. Welcome anybody who's watching this right now. It's that time again. Time for another session of me talking about random shit that has happened. And welcome to session 3, I should say, of this whatever the hell it is. Um so it's been about a week or so, give or take a few days at the very least. Um, let's see. Not a lot has happened in that string of time, really, honestly. Not anything noteworthy of late. I decided to do this because, well, it's Monday night, at least at the time of this being I was gonna say filmed, but I mean live streamed. I mean, give or take. I mean, depending on if you're watching it now live on Twitch or if you're going to watch it, or rather listen to it later on YouTube and SoundCloud, which is where I'll be posting these. But, I digress. Let's see. Well, I mean, I was going to go somewhere today, but since the weather said otherwise, I decided to, hold that off. Yeah, it's been really, yucky out, and it's like raining nonstop, and it's really put like a damper on things. I couldn't really be able to do stuff outside of you know leaving the house or anything like that. I mean, I could have, but since it was raining a lot, it kind of prevented me from doing certain things. Not using it as an excuse to be lazy, but who the hell am I kidding? I am lazy, but that's pretty much what's happening on that front, if you can call that noteworthy of anything of the sort. Probably not. But anyway, yeah, I'm just trying to make sure the audio's. It's always one thing I gotta make sure with this for the audio, but since this is a much more lower quality, I mean, not really high quality, but not necessarily low quality. I mean, all I really have to worry about is being live and audio, as opposed to making sure the video is there, or the game's capturing and everything's balanced or anything like that. But I guess one thing that was kind of on my mind earlier, and something I always find myself thinking about, like me personally, I know other people kind of think about this stuff sometimes, but and I guess this kind of goes, but I guess there is something I can talk about. I mean, it doesn't really relate to me specifically, but it's something that actually started picking up recently, and it's kind of becoming not necessarily viral, but something that's being played on YouTube, on Twitch, and people are talking about it. Um, there has been talk, and someone actually made a modded version of the Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time called it's a it's Ocarina of Time Randomizer. So for those of you who don't know what randomizers are, if you've never heard of a randomizer, it's basically just significant items, or anything of the sort is completely jumbled up. It's based more on RNG rather than where it's supposed to be. And in this case, it's mostly something that I've seen done for Pokemon, where the encounters and the starters are completely randomized, and like you can start off with like different Pokemon than what you're actually supposed to start out with, and you can kind of crank it up like moveset's completely different, Pokemon evolve differently, the types are different, everything like that. So basically, what that means for Ocarina of Time is basically all the main items as well as the items you get from like mini games and all that are completely randomized. So like you can wind up starting out with like a slingshot or something like that. I'm trying to explain as best I could because this side point, but basically everything, all the main items are randomized. Like the layouts of like it's basically just the items that are completely changed. And there are additional things like the color of your tunic, the low health sound, things like that. And it's really gotten like off the ground in such a short amount of time because like for one it completely changes the game. Like people like speedrunners and like players in general have just like used this as sort of like a means of getting back to like Ocarina of Time and like sort of playing it in like a different perspective. Like depending on what items you start out with can determine a lot. It can determine how early you can do things. It can determine what you can complete, what you can't complete, things like that. It's kind of in a way like just changing everything you know about the game. And like it's funny because it works out for speedrunners because one of the things like the creator of this did was he actually took out some significant cutscenes. So the scene at the beginning where it's like the Great Deku Tree talking about you know yeah yada 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 blah blah blah, I'm being cursed, stuff like that's been taken out, which really helps like speedrunners kind of get into the game faster, especially if you're like doing if you do that sort of stuff where you speedrun games, and obviously you can't really do anything about cutscenes unless they're like skippable. But I don't know, it really got me thinking about just how much it's had an impact like on like the community as well as people's perspective on the game itself. Now, I'll admit I'm probably one of like the 5 people who's like not the biggest into Zelda. And I know for anyone who's listening to this right now, you're probably saying like, well, how can you call yourself a nerd and not be that into Zelda? Like, I don't know. It's not really one of the series I really got into. I apologize to like 99% of the gaming community right now. It's I don't know. There's always been something like holding me back from like enjoying Zelda games to the fullest. Like, I mean, that's not to say I haven't played Zelda games. In fact, I really do want to pick up Wind Waker again because I feel like that's one because A, it's one of the Zelda games I've actually played, and B, it's one of the games I probably got the most into. And I know people have been like eating me out for like not playing like Breath of the Wild for like 900 hours like everybody else has done. And I know people listening to this right now are probably gonna do it anyway. So I mean, I'm prepared for that honestly. But I don't know. I guess it's because of the fact that like I don't know. I always felt a little intimidated by Zelda games because there's so much you can do. I know people are going to argue saying like, "Well, you don't have to do everything." I realize this, but there's just like so much to it, like so much to the games, like the characters, the music, the gameplay, and all that stuff, and just seeing like this one game that everybody loves, Ocarina of Time, which has been praised a as like quote unquote the best Zelda game out there, and just seeing it come about in like a different light, it's really interesting in me, and it shows just how like changing something like just item spawnage in like completely different locations, it really interests me because like you know in the original Ocarina of Time you basically just go like in a forward path, and that's mostly what it's been like, with the exception of maybe like Breath of the Wild, where like it is point A from point B, but you also have this so much more exploration that you can do, which I know is one of the foundations when it comes to Zelda. But what the randomizer has done is it's basically taking that whole going from point A to point B, like, and taking it so, like, okay, so I don't have the sword yet, and I don't know where I'm gonna get the sword. I might as well do this because I can't do that. It's sort of like, in a sense, like putting like a different perspective on the game, and like giving people like that sense of the game that they never really thought of before. And like, I don't know, it got me interested because um like lately I've been trying to challenge myself to play games in like a new perspective, because like honestly, like, when you're younger, you don't really think about these sort of things. You just want to play the game. And as you get older and older, you kind of see games and well, not just games, but anything really in like a different perspective. And when you go back to like re-explore that game or whatever it may be, it basically just gives you the chance to like sort of experience it in a new way that you never thought was possible. And I think one of the better examples of that was like Chugga Conroy's recent revisit to game Earthbound, because for those of you who don't know, he's been around for like 10 years, and like Earthbound was like the first Let's Play he ever did, and this was back in 2007 when like or was it 2006? Well, regardless, but back in like 10 years ago when Let's Plays and YouTube itself were completely new, and like, everything was a little bit subpar, it was kind of mediocre because it was just starting out. And but just seeing him explore that game again in a new light and with more experience, and he's actually said multiple times, like, even to this day, even though this is probably like, I don't know, his 12th playthrough or whatever he said it was, he's still learning new things about the game, which I personally can really admire, that when just going back and experiencing a game in a way you never experienced it before. Like, just sort of taking that nostalgia factor you have with a game or like a show or a movie, and just like using that nostalgia you had before and seeing how it's affected you now, and like how you've grown, and how like whatever it is that you were admiring so much has grown, things like that. And it's really interesting to me because it shows like how exactly you have changed your perspective and your experience. Like because, okay, I think a better example for me would be like Pokemon. Like, it's been one of my like go-to series ever. And it's funny because like when I was younger, I never got around to like playing Pokemon to like the point of finishing a game. But when I got older and when I got more into Pokemon, I became more focused on them, and I was able to actually complete them. But for some reason, like even now, like some time ago, I got back into that slump of never finishing a Pokemon game, and it got me thinking. And I think one of the reasons why I sort of went back into that slump is because I kind of was just like not experiencing the game in a way that I felt was enjoyable or something new and refreshing. And so I sort of took that challenge upon myself to like change that and make it sort of like fun again, because I think one of the things I notice that I have a tendency to do is when I pick out my full team, and when I get to a point where I get my last teammate, I'll basically just stop playing the game altogether and just move on to something else. So I kind of did something that I know not many people do. I know some people do this, and it's something that I myself have started to do with certain games. Is like I sort of Because here's the thing, I feel like in the newer Pokemon generations of games, we kind of get spoiled with like not just newer Pokemon, but just like the amount of Pokemon that we're getting given from the get go. And like, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, there's too many Pokemon; they're uncreative." Well, that may be true, but my problem is not necessarily that there's too many Pokemon in the sense that there's just too damn many. It's just that there's too many to pick from. And I wind up just picking like just 6 and just running with it. And wind up just neglecting Pokemon that I've never used and kind of wanted to use but never had a chance. So what I did was I decided to play Pokemon and just switch around my team. Like I'll start out with certain Pokemon, then as the game progresses, depending on where I'm at, I'll switch around these Pokemon. I did it for like Alpha Sapphire, I did it for Pokemon X, and I even just now just completed Ultra Sun for a second time where I did exactly that. And not only did it like, you know, bring back the enjoyment I had with this game, it kind of gave me like a new perspective on because I was using different Pokemon, like Pokemon I never used before, or Pokemon I rarely use. And depending on where I was in the game, I was able to like adjust my team to like sort of be more prepared for the challenges ahead. And then at the end I just chose like a full team of 6 and I made it so that it sort of bounces out when I get the Pokemon in a way that cuz like in Ultra Sun, well in Gen 7 in general, there's even Pokemon like in the last few areas that you've never caught in previous routes, like that dragon Pokemon which was on my team. And it sort of like just kept my interest going because I was using different Pokemon and just playing it in a way that I haven't played before. And just like keeping that momentum I had with the series, but also something new. And like here's the thing that I have like learned about like in terms of like nostalgia is that like the it it really comes down to like your it's really subjective. Like what might be nostalgia for you could be completely something different to someone else. Like it all depends on like what kind of nostalgia you have for something. Like going back to like Zelda, like I'm one of like the 5 people who like not really that the biggest like Zelda enthusiasts, but I know a lot of people are, and I guess sort of that like appreciation that a lot of people have for Zelda, it's sort of like dragged me into it and just want to see what all the fuss is about, which is why I try to get into Zelda, even though I didn't really get myself immersed in it as much as like most people would. But because like they have such a strong appreciation for like what the series has become and all that, and just because they have like a nostalgia for like Ocarina of Time, which is why I feel like the randomizer has been so successful as it is, because it's taking this game that a lot of people have nostalgia for, and putting it in a new perspective, like changing the rules for this. And in a way that's fun, entertaining, and like you won't lose interest at all. Like every seed you do of this randomizer will be completely different. And I feel like that's what has driven people to like play this so much. I mean, like there's even like a dedicated server on Discord for it for like people who want to know how to play and how to get it working. And it's like that sort of dedication and like this appreciation for nostalgia that sort of like it really does like it's sort of mind-boggling in a way, because like obviously like people complain all the time about like having your nostalgia glasses on too tight or being blinded by nostalgia, and I'll admit in a way that is true. Like people can sort of be like caught up in nostalgia that they just can't appreciate like newer things. And going back to like Pokemon, that's kind of been like the big complaint people have with the series, like mostly like people who are fans of Gen 1s, or like as many people have dubbed them Gen 1ers, quote unquote, because they feel like the series isn't as good as it used to be, even though at times they do try to cater to those fans. It's why we've gotten like remakes of like, um why we've gotten remakes of like Red and Green, we'll call Fire and Leaf Green, all that, because they want it. They, I feel like Nintendo in general has a habit of trying to introduce things that caters to everybody. Everybody who grew up with these sort of like nostalgia, but also catering to people who want something new and refreshing, and just trying to please everyone, which is something that not a lot of many people can accomplish, like right off the bat. Like, and the thing is, you can't really please everyone, but the fact that Nintendo still tries to do that and does it in a way that, for the most part, can be very successful is just, it really astounds me. And like, I know that not everyone's going to be on board with it. Like, obviously, not everyone has been on board with it. Because, like, I know, like, a lot of people, really liked, some of the remakes they had of, like, past generations, like Fire Red, Leaf Green, and, Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Heart Gold, Soul Silver, people really enjoyed it, and, like, hell, it's been one of my favorite games. And, like, the thing is, like, it sort of gives you a chance to go back to, like, these old regions, but in a new light, and that's basically what the remakes do. They basically take you back to these places you've been to in the past and that you grew up with, and presenting them in a way that even you can still play, but still like the people just jumping on can play. Like everybody can be a part of it. And like, I mean, you could argue that it just leaves you spoiled for like some of the newer things because of all the new things they add, like HM's no longer being a thing, and like TM's being reusable, things like that. But I don't know. It's just trying to present it in a way that anyone can enjoy and everyone can enjoy, if that makes any sense. And I know a lot of people will argue now that like companies just do this to exploit your nostalgia. Just try to like, because they know you want, because you just want to relive the good old days. And like, I think one of the prime examples of that is like a lot of these live action movies that come out now, like Disney. Disney has been going crazy with the live action movies. We've had like Beauty and the Beast. We've had what was that? We've had Maleficent, which I want to say is Snow White. Probably is. Don't quote me on that. But like, and now we got like Christopher Robin. Like all these things. Like, it's great that Disney is like reliving all these old classics and trying to bring them in new light. But again, you can easily say that it's just exploiting your nostalgia, which like Disney has sort of gotten into a rut about with these live action stuff. But but a counter argument to that you could sum up that this about Disney and nostalgia is that like they know that people want to relive the glory days, which is why they've brought back Mickey Mouse in like cartoons, or why they rebooted DuckTales. And like, here's the thing, it's like you want to do it in a way that pleases people. And sure, you can argue that maybe people don't know exactly what they want, but you want to do it in a way that is pleasing just in general, that people want to watch. And I feel like certain companies do that better than other companies. Like I think a good example would be like Nickelodeon. Like Nickelodeon has been really good about like sort of bringing back all these, like, well, not necessarily what they've done is I'm trying to see, because I know I brought up recently about like the Invader Zim and Hey Arnold movies, but they also like, you know, sort of dedicate a certain time of night on TNIC to like just showing all these 90s shows like, again, Hey Arnold, Rugrats, Cat Dog, Real Monsters, and all that. But I feel like that not only are they like giving you a chance to like, relive your childhood, but they're also like bringing back some of those, well, maybe not necessarily bringing back, but like just sort of reliving them again for one final hurrah, like the Invader Zim movie is doing. And I don't know, like I said, nostalgia is very, very subjective, and it's all based on like how you yourself grew up with all these different, like, shows and games and all that. And what might be nostalgia for one person might be something else for another. It's totally based on like, your perspective and how you grew up with the stuff. And like depending on how it's handled, it can either be something that's really enjoyable or just a complete shit show. And yeah, it's funny that it's saying Nickelodeon because Cartoon Network has been like the complete opposite when it comes to like reboots and all that, because like nobody liked the Powerpuff Girl reboot. People hated Teen Titans Go, and don't even get me started on Ben 10 reboot, because like I think if you see my Twitter handle, you could probably guess right now I'm a huge fan of Ben 10. It's been one of my favorite Cartoon Network series. I'll admit it has its flaws, like mainly the series where it was like Alien Force, where it just sort of like became like this really gritty, edgy, like sort of darker tone of Ben 10, which is something I wasn't really used to and didn't really enjoy. But then like Omniverse, and I realized that Omniverse it sort of took a step back and sort of like brought back that little comedic effect of the original Ben 10, but still like bringing about like this older version of like Ben himself and all that. And like and it really did a better job tying all up the continuity that, and all like, all the continuity errors between like Ben 10, Ben 10 Alien Force, and all that really good stuff. But then you have the reboot, which is just, it's just a shit show. I'm sorry, but it really is. As much as I will defend Ben 10 as one of my favorite series, the Ben 10 reboot sucks. It's just awful. And like the thing is, like, people really got upset about Thundercats Roar because it was like sort of the same thing. Like they're taking like their argument was like taking nostalgia and just shitting all over it because of the how different it is from like the original Thundercats. And Thundercats has been one of those things that like they've rebooted constantly and constantly, and everyone like it's one of those things like you're either on board or you just hate it to bits. And that's sort of the thing that's either like that happens with a lot of shows or like franchises get rebooted. Is like either everyone's on board of it or everyone just fucking hates it. And oh my god, I'm getting an aneurysm just thinking about this one. The last Amber movie. Oh my god, was that horrible. And I remember Jesus fucking Christ. I remember I saw like an interview where like M. Night Shyamalan admitted himself the only reason why he made the movie was because for his 5-year-old daughter who liked the show, and it was so bad. Like, the man obviously didn't do his research, and he clearly didn't know what the fuck he was getting himself into. Like, oh my god, I should just stop talking about it before I blow my brains out or whatever. But that's what I mean. Like, if you're going to like, if you are going to like quote unquote exploit people's nostalgia, do it in a way that's at least tasteful, in a way that at least someone will like it. And that's sort of been the thing that people really criticize Teen Titans Go, was that, like, the creators knew how bad the show was. Like, there was even an episode where Control Freak was just complaining to Teen Titans about, like, how the original show for that was so much better than Teen Titans Go. It was like, they fucking knew. And it's funny because, like, for a Teen Titans Go movie, that made a lot of money for, like, well, a few reasons. One, well, I mean, apparently according to people it was really good, but two, because they stated that if it does really good, they'll reboot the original Teen Titans, and there's actually, like, a teaser, like, before I get any more into this, you might want to, like, just exit out of this right now, because this is kind of this. No, this isn't kind of a spoiler. It is a spoiler. If you haven't heard or seen the movie yet, and you don't want to be spoiled about what happens, it's not really anything that happens in the movie. It's what happens at the end of the credits. So, just warning you right now. But after the credits for Teen Titans Go movie, there was a teaser for season 6 of the original Teen Titans. They're actually doing it. Okay. Now we got that out of the way. It's just like, like, I don't know. I always found myself to be a very nostalgic person these days because of all his appreciation for all stuff, and I am a 90s kid. I did grow up in the 90s. Although you probably couldn't really tell from, like, how I sound. Puberty had other ideas, what can I say? But, I don't know. It really just, like, interests me how one's nostalgia can either be really good for you or it could really work against you. And I think that's what it really boils down to, like, what kind of nostalgia you have for, like, all this stuff. Because you can either, like, be one of the biggest fans of something, or you could just, like, not give a shit about it. And that's always been something that's probably going to be the case for, like, a lot of these companies for years to come. And, you can either be with it or against it. That's really all it boils down to. But, anyway, let's see. What are we at right now? It's been like a half hour. I think that's a good stopping point. I mean, I basically yammered on long enough. I mean, usually these go for, like, either a half hour to, like, an hour anyway, so I'm pleased with this turnout. So, if you haven't already, I would suggest, check me out on YouTube, Twitter, DeviantArt, Instagram, SoundCloud, which is where this is going to go up in addition to YouTube. But also, like, I have a Discord, and, you can find me pretty much everywhere these days. Unless it's Skype, because Skype fucking sucks now. But, anyway, that's gonna be it for me. So, I'll see you all in the next session where I just talk about stuff. Have a good one.